I'm honestly getting tired of seeing people attack Rush, and especially Anika Nilles, before they've even given her a real chance. And the more I read these comments online, the more uncomfortable it makes me. Because let me ask you something. How long have you been listening to Rush? Are you someone who grew up with this band in the 70s, the 80s, maybe even the 90s? And do you honestly believe nobody should ever touch that stage again just because Neil Peart is gone? I really want to hear from real Rush fans on this. Do you think Anika Nilles is a bad choice? Or do you think people are reacting emotionally because they're afraid of change? Be honest with me and write your thoughts below this video, because I know a lot of you have followed this band longer than I've even been alive. Me personally, I actually think she's a great choice. Not because she's replacing Neil. Nobody can replace Neil Peart, but because she brings something different. But after going through Rush's Instagram comments, I realized this situation is way more intense than I expected. So after reading hundreds of comments, I started realizing this wasn't just another internet argument. People are genuinely emotional about this. And honestly, I think that's because Rush means something deeper to a lot of people. For some fans, this band helped them through different stages of life. Some people discovered Rush as teenagers, and now they're in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, still listening to the same music. So when they see change happening, they react emotionally. And trust me, some of these comments were intense. The first one that really caught my attention said, "It's not Rush, stop calling it that." Now when I first read that, I paused for a second, because that's not just criticism, that's frustration. That's someone basically saying, the Rush I grew up with is gone. And honestly, I understand the emotion behind it. But at the same time, I don't completely agree with it. Because if Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, the people who built Rush, decide they want to continue creating music or performing again, who are we to tell them they can't? That's the part I keep thinking about. Then I saw another comment that said, "I'm happy you guys are still playing, but this is not Rush." And there it was again. That same fear of change showing up all over the comment section. And the more I kept scrolling, the more divided the fan base started to feel. Because right underneath those negative comments, I started seeing people defending Anika Nilles hard. One person wrote, "She should be herself. She is really good, and I don't expect her to be like Neil Peart. I am sure she will do well." Now, honestly, I think this is one of the smartest comments I saw, because the problem starts the moment people expect someone to replace Neil Peart. That's impossible. Neil wasn't just a drummer. He was part of the identity of Rush. His writing, his style, his stage presence, all of that became legendary. So if fans go into this expecting another Neil Peart, they're automatically setting themselves up for disappointment. But if you look at Anika as her own musician, that changes everything. And that's why I actually respect this comment a lot. It's not trying to compare legends. It's simply saying, let her be herself. But then, right after that positive comment, I ran into another one that completely changed the energy again. Someone wrote, "Nope, it's not Rush without Neil. Sorry." Short comment, very direct. And honestly, that's what makes it powerful. Because you can tell this person already made up their mind before hearing a single note. And that's the part that really fascinates me about this entire situation. Some fans aren't even willing to give this a chance. It's like the decision was made emotionally the moment they heard another drummer's name connected to Rush. And honestly, I understand why. For a lot of people, Neil Peart wasn't just a musician. He represented an era of their lives. Certain songs probably remind them of high school, old friendships, road trips, relationships, even people they've lost over the years. So when they hear Rush with another drummer, it almost feels personal to them. But then I came across another comment that completely flipped the mood again. "She is going to crush this gig. Neil Peart himself would be delighted to see her perform with them." Now that is a completely different perspective. Because instead of looking at this as disrespect to Neil's legacy, this person sees it as a continuation of it. And honestly, I think there's something beautiful about that. Imagine loving music so much that you want it to continue instead of staying frozen in time forever. That comment really stayed in my head while I kept scrolling through the page. But then I saw another comment that made me realize just how emotional this debate has become. The comment said, "I feel like Geddy is trying to talk us into something that isn't good." And wow, that one really stood out to me. Because now we're no longer talking about Anika's talent. We're talking about trust. Some fans are starting to question the judgment of the people who actually created Rush in the first place. And honestly, that tells you just how sensitive this topic is becoming inside the fan base. Personally, I don't agree with that comment at all. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson have spent decades protecting the legacy of Rush. These aren't random musicians trying to cash in on nostalgia. These are the same people who built the sound, the albums, and the memories fans are defending right now. So when I see comments acting like they suddenly don't know what they're doing, I think that's unfair. But at the same time, I can still understand the fear behind it. Because fans are terrified of seeing something they love become unrecognizable. And honestly, music fans do this a lot. Not just with Rush. Anytime a legendary band changes something, emotions take over immediately. But then, just when the negativity started building up again, I saw another comment that completely changed the atmosphere. Absolutely love it! Rush is back. And honestly, that excitement jumped right off the screen. And that's what makes this whole situation so interesting to watch. Because while some fans are mourning the past, others are genuinely excited about the future. That comment felt emotional in a completely different way. You could almost feel the happiness through the screen. Like this person never thought they would see Geddy and Alex doing something like this again. And honestly, I think that excitement matters too. Because sometimes fans become so focused on protecting memories that they forget the people inside the band are still alive, still creative, and maybe still passionate about making music. That's something a lot of comment sections ignore. Then I kept scrolling and saw another comment that honestly made me stop for a second. Someone wrote, "Never mind her, his voice was gone a decade ago. This is going to be the stuff of nightmares." Now that comment was brutal, because it didn't just attack the idea of Anika joining, it attacked the band itself. And I'm not gonna lie, reading comments like that made me uncomfortable. Not because people shouldn't criticize music, everybody has opinions, but because sometimes fans forget there are real human beings behind these decisions. Imagine dedicating your entire life to music, only to open the internet and see people calling your future performances nightmares before they even happen. That's rough. And honestly, I think that's the biggest problem with internet culture today. People react instantly, before hearing the music, before seeing the performance, before giving anything a real chance. The judgment comes first. And the more I kept reading these comments, the more I started realizing something. A lot of this isn't actually about Anika Nilles. It's about fear. Fear that Rush will never feel the same again. Fear that the magic is gone. Fear that continuing without Neil somehow damages the memories people have connected to this band for decades. And honestly, that's understandable. But at the same time, I also think there's another side people aren't talking about enough. What if continuing the music is actually a way of honoring the legacy instead of destroying it? Because when I looked through the positive comments, I noticed something very different about those fans. They weren't comparing. They weren't trying to turn Anika into the next Neil Peart. They simply appreciated her talent and trusted Geddy and Alex to make the right decision. And personally, I think that's the healthiest way to approach this situation. You don't have to love every change a band makes. But shutting it down before it even begins, I don't think that's fair either. And after spending all that time reading through Rush's Instagram comments, I walked away feeling something I honestly didn't expect. Respect. Not just for the fans defending Neil Peart's legacy, but also for the people willing to give this new chapter a chance. Because whether you agree with the decision or not, one thing is obvious. People still care deeply about Rush. And in today's world, that kind of emotional connection is rare. Some of these fans have spent 40 or 50 years with this music. Think about that for a second. Decades of memories attached to songs, albums, concerts, and moments in their lives. So of course emotions are going to run high. But me personally, I think Anika Nilles deserves a fair chance. Not because she's replacing Neil Peart. Nobody can replace a legend like that. But because she's stepping into an impossible situation with courage. And honestly, I respect that, but now I really want to hear from you. How long have you been listening to Rush? Do you think fans are being too harsh on Anika? Or do you believe Rush should never continue without Neil Peart? Whatever you think, write it below this video. Because after reading all these comments, I truly think this debate is only getting started. And before I end this video, I just want to say something directly to every Rush fan watching this right now. Whether you support this decision or completely disagree with it, I think we can all agree on one thing. Neil Peart's legacy will never disappear. Nothing can erase what he created with Rush. The music, the lyrics, the performances, the memories, all of that is permanent. Generations of people grew up listening to this band, and that impact is bigger than any lineup change or internet debate. But at the same time, life moves forward. Bands evolve, music changes, people grow older. And maybe that's the hardest part for fans to accept, because sometimes when we love something deeply, we want it to stay frozen exactly the way we remember it. But reality doesn't work like that. Personally, I don't think continuing the music automatically disrespects the past. In some ways, it can actually keep the spirit alive for newer generations discovering Rush for the very first time. And honestly, I think that's beautiful. Now, does that mean everybody has to agree with the decision? Of course not. Music is emotional. People connect to it differently. Some of you watching this probably feel excited about this new chapter, while others feel uncomfortable even hearing another drummer connected to the name Rush. And that's okay. That's why I wanted to make this video in the first place, not to attack fans, not to tell people how to feel, but to show just how divided and emotional this conversation has become online. But now I really want to hear your honest opinion. Do you think Anika Nilles deserves a chance? Or do you believe Rush should have ended permanently after Neil Peart? And for those of you who have followed this band for decades, I especially want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts below this video, and let's have a real conversation about it.